I've already spent the 3,000 rand that I can afford to pay every month. So I might as well spend 5,000 rand because kafana, like I've already gone overboard and I'm not going to be able to settle this card next month. Then 5,000 became 7,000. Then woo, I got excited. I got carried away. I started za. Hey guys, welcome back to another video and thank you so much for joining me yet again. If it is your first time here, and on this channel we chat about all things related to managing your money and adulting in general. So if that sounds like your type of vibe, please make sure that you check out our other content as well. And if you like what you see, smash the subscribe button and become a member of the team. Guys, today we are doing a my first time tag and I am super excited to get into it. I love doing tags on YouTube. It's one of my favorite things on the channel, especially when I'm able to remix the tag and make it a money edition. It's almost like a fun way of delivering financial content or a fun way of you learning about some of the stuff that I've done with my money or how I feel about my money and all of that. So I really do enjoy it. And it's a gloomy day in Johannesburg, so I've got my cup of rooibos tea to keep me warm. This is one of the beverages that I really enjoy having, guys, especially when it's cold like it is today outside. I really enjoy indulging in rooibos, no milk, because if you're putting milk in your rooibos tea, then I'm really judging you. Like, what's the point? As Mandy would say, I am judging you, okay? I am judging you. I put some honey, very little bit of honey, and some lemon, a slice of lemon or some lemon juice in mine, and that's how I like to enjoy it, especially on days like this. So before we get into it, shout out to Lindo from All Things Lindo. If you don't know who that is, I did a video with Lindo on my channel and she reached out to me and she said, look, Andisa, I'm going to do a my first time tag on my channel, and I actually thought about it that it would be great if you do a money version as well. I think I'd really enjoy something like that. And Andisa said, say no more. Once you've got money and you've got tag in the same sentence, I'm in, right? And sadly, so I came up with a few because I obviously didn't have enough time to ask you guys to send me some. So I did come up with a few, and of that few, two of them are examples that Ulindo gave me when she gave me the idea. And I added those two and I added on top of that. I really didn't put a lot because I want to get into the first times without worrying about time. So it isn't that many. But yeah, let's get into it. The first one, I've got them in front of me here. The first one is my first job. Hey, my first job, guys. Yo. So I wanted to work since I could crawl. Like, I know I'm exaggerating, but I feel like that's the best way of describing it. So I've wanted to work and earn my own money since forever. Literally speaking, I started wanting to work in primary school. And I told my mom said I was crazy and out of my mind. There's no child of hers who was going to work that young. And then after that, I started nagging her about it again. Like when I got into high school, especially because I started seeing some of my peers also getting part-time jobs at your fast food places, waitressing, being a runner and all of that stuff. So then when I was closer to 16, I really started taking it seriously. And then she was like, okay, cool. After the age of 16, you can start looking, right? And then I did look. But what happened was that for the jobs that I would find, the transport in comparison to how much I would earn would be almost the same, which means I wouldn't take much home, right? And I, because I was young, was not too bothered by that. I didn't like it, but I was like, you know what? I want to get in. I want to start earning money. I don't care if I earn 30 Rand take home or 40 Rand at the time, as long as I'm earning money. And Umama was like, no ways. She's already working a hard labor job, earning a bare minimum wage in a high pressure environment, and there's no way that she's going to work that hard and then let her child in high school work the same in a similar type of environment. So she said no, that's not going to happen. And then we kind of went back and forth about it. we kind of went back and forth about it until she was like, okay, cool. If you do want to get a job, you have to get a job at the same place that I'm working at. And that was Wild Coast Sun. If you're familiar with Wild Coast, it's in the Port Edward area, and it's very close to my hometown, Epizan. So she said that if you work where I work, it means that you get free accommodation, because she used to live in the staff quarters inside the hotel area, not in the hotel. There was a staff quarters like a walking distance from the hotel where she works. So she said, you'll get free accommodation. I can make sure you look after and all of that stuff. So let's do it that way. I agreed, right? And then I started looking and I found my first job. When was it? I found my first job at the end of matric. I went for my training. I started looking when I turned 18 in October of my matric year. And then I found my job in December of that matric year. And then when I went to register for varsity, I already knew that I had a job to go back to every holidays. So I used to work in December. I used to work for the April Easter break. I used to work in June. I used to work in September for the 10 days break. And I used to work in December as well, right? So I worked like 4 times a year. I really enjoyed it. I never got a break, to be honest, because I actually worked in that job from my matric year until I graduated from varsity. And even then, I continued with the job until I found my grad program the following year. So I stayed at my first job for a good 3 or 4 years, right? 4 years. For a good 4 years, I stayed at my first job. So that was really nice, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I did. I used to work night shifts and stuff, which was not so great, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people that I worked with. I enjoyed the customer service, and the labor was also not as extensive. And yeah, that was my first job. And then the next one is my first paycheck. So my first paycheck, I obviously got in January of the year that I started working, the following January. So remember, turned 18 in October, matriculated in November, and then started training in December. When I trained for 3 days, and they actually paid me for those 3 days. And I used to get paid 120 Rand per day. So that's 3 times 120. And I got that on a pay slip, guys. I was so excited. I was so excited when I saw my pay slip. I was like, I have a pay slip that looks like everybody else's. And in that pay slip, the amount that was going to be paid to me, I think was just above 300 Rand, if not 290 something. I didn't care. I was excited that I got a pay slip. That was like my happiest moment ever, because like I said, I'd been wanting a job for some time. So the fact that I got a pay slip, which I didn't expect, I don't know if I thought I would get paid in like wages or something, but I got paid once a month because they used to run the casual employees like me on the payroll. So I got paid once a month, and yeah, man, they would calculate it like 15 to 15. So for that run, I only worked 3 days, and that's how much I got. Honestly, in September and April, I wouldn't get paid a lot because it was like 6 days shifts or 7 day shifts. Where I would get a decent amount of money was June and December. And I would get tips as well in June and December because it's the school holidays. A lot of people are going on holidays. So I'd get tips. And then the cool thing was I would also get paid when I went back to varsity, right? So I would work, and then my pay would actually come back when I went back to varsity. And I think the most amount of money I received in one go was 4,102 Rand after a December. So remember, in December, I come back in Jan, everybody's broke, and I've got like 4,100 and something, boom, in my account for working the month of December. Plus, I had already collected tips. Plus, I was tutoring. Yo, guys, hey, I feel like that's when things were good. That is when things were good because there were no responsibilities. Anyway, that was my first paycheck, and that's how much I got and when I got it. And then my first debit order. So my first debit order was definitely my cell phone contract. When I started working, in the year that I started working, which was 2016, I got myself a cell phone contract. Reason being that I wanted to, number one, build my credit score, which ended up not helping me when I got a car. But anyway, I wanted to build my credit score, and I knew that I needed some form of debt or whatever. So I got a cell phone contract. And honestly, a cell phone contract is one of the things that I still take personally over cash. when I look at the type of phone that I want, cash, and I look at the cell phone contract, it has always made sense, especially because of the airtime and data costs in this country. It's made sense for me to just get a contract as opposed to buying a phone cash. And I've never lost a phone, so I always pay off my phone and I remain with the phone afterwards. So it's always made the most amount of sense for me. Even when it comes to data, guys, I've got a small pocket Wi-Fi that I use for data. I don't do that prepaid thing that you put on your SIM card because it's so expensive. It's so expensive. And I know that I personally don't enjoy deductions, but it honestly makes the most sense. And I feel like the system was designed in that way, that it makes more sense to get a contract, because obviously for them, for the providers, it also makes the most sense. Okay, let's not digress. That was my first debit order. It was a cell phone contract in 2016 after getting my first job. The next one is my first loan. When and what was my first loan? So my first loan was definitely my car. I got car finance for my car. And I know now that there's a need to be specific, because some people take personal loans for cars. Some people take personal loans for cars. I don't know why. But some people take personal loans to purchase cars. So let me be specific. My first loan was a car finance for my car. The idea was to buy my first car cash, and I wanted to buy a little skoro that was very simple, very fuel efficient, and just pay for it cash and not have a car installment at all, and start saving for my property. But then I met my now husband at the time, and he sort of like spoke to me about the importance of buying, something that's durable, something that will last long, something that he can drive. I feel like all the things he mentioned, like the most, I think what he was considering was, can he drive the car? And will he drive my car? So anyway, I'm just joking, but he spoke to me about the importance of, like, buying something that would last me a very long time, and something that I wouldn't have to fix like constantly, to a point where I end up spending money that I would have bought, that I would have spent on a new car anyway. And he also shared his experience with me. It made a lot of sense. So I ended up buying a demo which had kilometers on it, so I didn't pay for a brand new car, but I also got a really good quality car, to a point, guys, where I drove it for 5 years and more, and I paid it off and I was still driving it. And most importantly, I actually got a decent amount of money back when I traded it in last year when we bought our new car. So I feel like that was the best advice he could have given me, to be honest, in hindsight, because it was still affordable. It never gave me problems. I drove it for more than 5 years and I still got a decent amount of money back. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm grateful for him for telling me that, because I would have bought like the cheapest thing I could find just so I could avoid car finance. But I don't think that was the best move. So yeah, that was my first loan. I've never taken a personal loan in my life. Yeah, I've never taken a personal loan in my life. First time maxing my credit card. I remember this very clearly. I got a credit card because I went to the bank and I wanted a car. And they told me that in order to get a good deal on the interest, I needed to have a credit record. And I said to them, well, I've got a cell phone contract though. And they said, nah, that doesn't count, not for something as big as a vehicle. So you need to get like more debt. And I told them that I don't want store accounts or anything funny like that. What other options are there? They told me about the credit card option. What I liked about it was the fact that the first 55 days were interest free. So I convinced myself, like you do too, that you're just going to use what you're going to pay back, and then you're going to pay it back, and then you're not going to pay interest. And it started off well. Like, I got my credit card for a good number of months before I bought my car, and I was behaving. I was using it the way I was supposed to. Until I bought my car, and then I went home that December. Then, number one, I underestimated the cost of going home. I'm a toll gate. Like, to go home, I spent like what? I think it's 700 Rand for a return on toll gates. I didn't budget for that. Well, I budgeted for toll gates, but I budgeted like a stupid small number that I didn't do research on. So my budget was eaten up there. Petrol, I think I also spent more on petrol than I thought I would, but that's because of I budgeted going and coming back, but I didn't budget all the round and round that I was doing during the holidays. Thirdly, now that I was no longer an intern, I was now fully employed, there were certain expectations at home as well in terms of what I would do. So I spent quite a bit of money at home. So I then maxed out my budget for going home. And it was the first time I went home with a car. And I think I just underestimated the cost, man. So I spent what I had saved, and then I spent on my credit card as well. I also went home via KZN. So I visited friends in KZN. I went out with them. We had a good time. I had a new car. We were going for spins, exploring, and all that stuff. And that also went on my credit card. And here's the thing, guys, about how and why I maxed out my credit card. I told myself that, okay, I've already spent, let's say 3,000 Rand. I've already spent the 3,000 Rand that I can afford to pay every month. So I might as well spend 5,000 Rand because Gafana, like I've already gone overboard and I'm not going to be able to settle this card next month. Then 5,000 became 7,000. Then, woo, I got excited. I got carried away. I started za. What really helped me was that the credit card limit was 15K. So I couldn't go above 15K because that was my limit. Thank God. I'd asked them to only give me 15,000. And then when I came back and I snapped back into reality, I could pay 5K the following month and I was left with 10. And I think it took me about 3 or 4 months to pay off the 10K. After that, I learned my lesson. I lived and I was fine. And then after that, I didn't go back. But that's the first time I maxed up my credit card. But I must say it was fun. Like, that holiday, I will never forget. It was a really good experience. I spoiled the people I love. I was that, it's on me, it's on me, it's on me, you know? Yeah, now you think a person is like all great with money and doesn't do anything stupid. The next one is the first time I borrowed someone money and they didn't return it. This is not a very like interesting story because the first time that happened was about 2 years after I started working. I borrowed a family member money. I knew when he borrowed the money that the chances of him returning it were very slim. Reason being that he was unemployed. So if you're borrowing money and you're unemployed, what are the chances of you being able to pay it back? And even if you do hustle, I can't make you feel bad or call you out on not returning it if I know that you're unemployed. That's personally how I feel. So I honestly lent him the money knowing that it might not come back, and I was fully comfortable with that. And that's actually a principle I adopted from that first time. I adopted that principle throughout my life. Like, if I know that the money that I'm borrowing someone is money that I am going to need and I desperately need, I don't do it. Like, I just tell you that I can't afford to borrow you the money. I always prefer to borrow you money that is like money I would have saved for something, but not money that I would have used. Otherwise, I feel like that's when you get stress and anxiety because now you can't do your own stuff that you really need to do because you've prioritized somebody else's needs over your own. So I've just given myself that principle that if you borrow 200 from me, I'm only going to give you the 200 if I'm not going to feel it, okay? Obviously, there's super close people in your life and like specific circumstances that are different, but from the most part, that's really me. Like, that's how I manage that. I think the only other time that someone has borrowed money from me after that was and not returned it was another time. So it was only 2 times in my life that people have borrowed money from me and not returned it. And both times I gave them the money knowing that the chances of it coming back is almost slim. So I was literally giving them the money and treating it as if they return it to me, then it's a bonus. If they don't, it's fine. And I think, guys, that has helped me like keep sane and calm, I think. The next one is my first time investing. My first time investing was when I started working in my first job. So that's straight after matric. That's when I had my first investment, literally when I started earning my first salary. It was a disaster. So much so that I've got a story time dedicated purely to that. I speak about my first investment and why I regret it and why it was the wrong investment for me. So if you would like to know details on that specific one, I'll link it in the cards. Please check it out. I spoke in depth about the investment, why it was not aligned to my goal, and why I feel like I should have done something a bit different. But in terms of when that first time was, it was within a year after I started working. So that's my first year of varsity, end of matric. Yeah. And then my first bank account. My first bank account. I was so so excited for this one. I was 9 years old. Yes, I've actually been banking with FNB since I was 9 years old up until now. They are also my bank at the moment. And I remember I was so excited when I received my bank card because they literally made it for kiddies. It was very creative. It had these coins and stuff. Please let me know if you can remember those cards like back in the day. But when you move the card, it would like light up, and I don't know how to describe that that material, man, but it would light up and show you coins and stuff like that. And it was really cool. It looked cool. My mom would deposit 50 rand per month for me in that card, and the first 50 rand she deposited, I blew it. If bekuthiwa I blew it kungenwa noma kukanjani, like I would have got it in with blowing my 50 rand, because I went to the closest shopping center. As soon as I got the money, I withdrew the 50 rand and then I blew it. I would go to the tuck shop all the time, buy chocolates and sweets. I literally blew it at the tuck shop, like the entire 50 rand. And at the time, guys, 50 rand was a lot. Like we used to carry 2 rand to school per day, if you were lucky. So 50 rand was a lot of money. And I blew it on snacks and ice cream and stuff like that. But after that, I was a bit wiser. After my first bank account and that first 50 rand and second one, I then started like letting it pile up, and I would buy things like clothes and stuff like that, or save up to go to like, a nice place with my friends. Especially when I got into high school, I was a bit smarter about it. But I think I just got excited, man. That first one, I got excited. And I remember even when I withdrew the 50 rand, and I think I got 20 rands or something, 20 rands and a 10 rand. At the time when I was 9, it was like, oh my God. And I think I thought that there'd be more money after that as well, but story for another day. And then the last one is the first time I realized the value of money. And that's going to be our last, my first for today. The first time I realized the value of money, guys, was when I moved away from the rural areas and I moved into the burbs. That's when I started seeing, but no, man, there's something here with this money thing. Obviously, you're coming from the rural areas where there's no running water, there was no electricity at the time, and you know the structures and all of that stuff. And you're going to like the suburbs, high fences, different races and cultures, and all of that stuff, good stuff, like on the other side. And I think when I moved to the suburbs, I immediately was like, okay, I started asking myself, why are people different and why do they have different things? But I think when it really clicked that there's something about money was when I started getting friends in primary school that came from different races and different cultures and different social brackets. And I would visit my friends from other backgrounds who obviously had way more than us. And now I was in the suburbs, so I had a bit more, even though like I was from the rural areas, I had a bit more here. But then I would visit friends who have way more. Then I started realizing at the Kiruba, oh, okay, there's money, and there's money, right? So that's when I think for me, I started realizing the value of money. Obviously, if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that after that, I then redefined how I viewed and valued money, because I got to learn more as well as I got older and got out of high school. But at that point, that was my first time realizing, I think it was visiting people's homes and looking at what they eat, how they eat it, the condition of their homes, the facilities in their homes. I remember there was this one friend of mine who had like a cinema in her home, and she had a triple story, and in the ground floor was like her grandparents, I think, and then on the second floor it was her family. They had their own bathroom, own cinema, own bedrooms. Then on the last floor was another family within that family. Guys, it was a mansion. Like the cars, oh my God, in the garage. That's when I think I realized, and that was in grade 8 was when I saw that house. But I think it started in grade 7 and stuff, when I'd visit different homes, that I realized that, okay, in my life, funny, and there's different levels to this thing. Okay, guys, so that is the last one in terms of the my first time tags. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. Please don't forget to leave a like if you did enjoy it. And most importantly, let me know in the comment section, like, what are some of your first times from the ones that I've mentioned that you can remember? How did you feel? How did you experience it? I'd love to know if you share any similarities with me, or if your first times are completely different. So my tea is getting cold. Let me get to it. So thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't done so, please consider subscribing so I can see you in other videos as well. Bye, guys.